Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Garrett, and today we're going to be making one of my personal favorites, Quinoa Tabouli. And the reason I like this is because it's a mix of two superfoods together, and it's also delicious. So it's good for your health, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. You know, in our practice, we like to reverse acute and chronic conditions naturally, and the reason we're so successful is because of this right here. We base food as medicine. So as we go through this and show you how to prepare this, we're going to talk a lot about why this stuff is so beneficial to your body. So let's start. We're going to talk about quinoa. This is a quinoa. It's a little seed here. It's cultivated in South America, and it's actually a complete protein. And so much like the reason we eat beef or other meat, is we get all these amino acids that we don't make personally. Now, quinoa has all those in there. In fact, it's high in lysine. And lysine is a wonderful thing, a wonderful amino acid for people who have things like Epstein-Barr virus, mono, chronic fatigue, and chicken pox, and even cold sores. So lysine will actually inhibit the production of those viruses, and then those infections go away, especially shingles too. Now, today we're going to be using white quinoa. Really, there's about 1,800 different varieties, but you know, in the U.S. we pretty much just go to mono crop. So in my mix that I keep at home, we have red, black, and white. And that's really all you can get in the U.S. Now, this is packed full of minerals like your calcium. It's going to have manganese in there, magnesium, and even iron. So it's a great source for that. And of course, your B vitamins, the things that make you feel awesome. B1, B2, B6, and also folate, which will actually reverse cardiovascular disease by lowering an inflammatory chemical in your heart called homocysteine. So let's start by making the dressing, and then we'll add the quinoa in later. Now this is already cooked. It's cooked and it's cold, and that makes it easier to use. Last night I made some, and I used the warm quinoa, and it actually got a little bit mushy. So I think it's better to keep that cold overnight. So let's start with our oil. We're going to use olive oil. Now, there's a lot of different kinds, but really the main thing is making sure it's cold pressed and stored in glass. You don't want the oil sucking in any of the toxicities from plastic or petroleum. They can be endocrine disruptors. Olive oil is an anti-inflammatory oil, and it also does something amazing. It actually deplaques arteries. So in the U.S., where we have 1 in 2 people dying of heart attacks, and more women than men dying of heart attacks, something as simple as switching to olive oil versus corn oil is going to make a big difference. Now, that's a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And then we want to cut that with lemon juice, and it's about a 1/4 cup, equal parts there. And this is going to help emulsify or bring this together. So it'll help cut that oil. Now, of course, lemon, wonderful. It detoxifies the blood. Lemon's going to help decrease kidney stones, gallstones. It'll help dissolve those. Now, I use about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and then a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and sea salt's going to be your better one. If you can get something like Himalayan salt or some of the colored salts, that's awesome because, again, they have, you know, your table salt is just sodium chloride. Real salt has all kinds of minerals in it. We also have coriander, and coriander is the seeds of cilantro all ground up, and we want to use a teaspoon of that in there too. Now, I don't always use coriander, so if you don't have it, that's fine. It's still going to have good flavor. Now, one of my favorites in here is mustard. Now, many mustards are going to have lots of nasty and toxic ingredients in there, but Grey Poupon's always held true, and it's in glass, which I like. So we use a teaspoon. I use a little bit extra. Grey Poupon, this country one's a little coarse, and I like that because you get more nutrition in it, and it actually adds a little spice to it, which is nice. So we mix that up. Try to get to an even consistency here before we start adding the bigger stuff in. And again, this is a wonderful thing because you can make this very quickly, and then you know, the amount that we make, 3 cups, is going to last several days. And the longer it's in the fridge, the more flavor you're going to get out of it. Now we're going to use onions. The wonderful thing about onions and quinoa is that they contain a chemical called quercetin, and apples do too, but we're not going to put apples in this. Quercetin is a powerful anti-inflammatory. It helps decrease pain and inflammation. We're going to use tomatoes. Again, vine ripened would be best, but store-bought's okay too. And then we have our cucumbers. And these cucumbers, you can see, I always leave the peel on there because the peel is full of the most nutrient-dense chemicals for the foods. And I use English cucumbers, which are long and more slender, so there's more nutrition in there. Now we come to our parsley, and this is definitely a superfood. Parsley is going to raise something called glutathione in your body. And glutathione is your major detoxification pathway. And in fact, if you eat enough of this, you couldn't kill yourself on Tylenol. And we know that Tylenol is the leading cause of liver failure, 52% of all liver failures. And this one thing could prevent that. So we're going to put this in here. Now, I rough chop mine. I actually have stems. You can see a little bit of the stems in here. I don't mind that. I like a little texture to mine. But my wife, she takes the stems and pulls off the leaves, and only the leaves go in. And that's okay. So we can take that, fluff it together, get that mixed together. You know, there's, I've had tabbouli where it's just been purely this right here, no quinoa at all. But the quinoa is going to add a nice protein content to it. And the UN, the United Nations, actually said that 2013 is the year of quinoa. And that's because of the nutrient density of this thing and how wildly popular it's gotten. And it even has, now this is 3 cups cold, it even has a chemical in there. We talked about quercetin, but it has camphorol in there too. And camphorol is an anti-carcinogen. And so you're talking about decreasing cancer with every bite. So this is gluten-free, dairy-free, pathogen-free. It's just, there's no toxic chemicals in these. All the stuff that we use to make it are real ingredients, which is, not that common these days. And you can flavor this a little bit more salt if you want, a little bit more lemon juice if you want. Again, it's going to be better after you refrigerate it for the day, and each day it'll get better. Like my wife, she'll cook this up and she'll put it into little containers each day into her lunch, and it's a great pre-made meal for you. So when we come back from break, we're going to go ahead and plate this up and have a few more questions. Thanks.
Welcome back. Dr. Garrett is with us from earlier when you prepared the tabouli. And I've ordered tabouli in restaurants before. I've never gotten it with quinoa before, so yes. I thought that was different. I've never prepared quinoa because I don't really know how. What do you do with it?
Well, it's very much like cooking rice. It's 1 cup of that of quinoa and then 2 cups of water, and then you bring it almost to a boil for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then you just bring it almost to a boil, and then I let it simmer. I bring it down. And then for about 15, 20 minutes, and then once it's done, pull it off, let it cool down, and then you can kind of fork and fluff it. Okay, now do you need to do anything with the quinoa before you... Yeah, that's good. Often quinoa is going to be pre-rinsed, and it has this coating on there called a saponin, and the saponin is there to help the plant get rid of insects. And it's actually like a soap. In some of the countries, they'll actually use this, the saponins off this to wash their clothes, which is kind of cool. But saponins, when we eat them, sometimes they're a little bit bitter. And so if you find that to be true, then you just pre-wash it. You got to get a little fine mesh screen, and then you put it in there and just rinse it off several times, and then you're ready to go. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Also, is there a difference, or does it matter when you use olive oil? Does it matter if you use extra virgin olive oil? Well, the main thing is buy it in glass, and then olive oil, basically what you want is that they take olives and they have these giant wheels that cold press it. So there's no heat involved. And when they do that, that's going to be your virgin olive oil or your extra virgin.
Okay.
And so like this one here is extra virgin. That's going to be your first run olive oil, and that's the best.
Okay.
The second run, you know, they kind of like try to get the rest of the oil out. That's going to be your virgin olive oil.
Okay.
And then the only ones that you really don't want is the refined ones, because those are the heat-based ones, because they're going to denature the oil, and they're going to make it actually trans fat, or they're going to actually use harmful chemicals to extract the rest of the oils out of there.
I see.
So as long as you stay with virgin, extra virgin, you're going to be good. Extra virgin's obviously the best.
Okay. Because I've noticed when I use olive oil as opposed to vegetable oil or corn oil, there's a different flavor as well.
Yes.
It's a cleaner flavor. Or
Yes.
I don't know, it tastes better.
Yeah, and there's, you know, in the U.S. we always just do one or two different oils, but the reality is that you can use walnut oil, almond oil. Walnut oil is very high in omega-3s. There's now non-GMO canola oil, which is from rapeseed, which is actually really, really good full of omega-3s. And then some people even use coconut oil. And
Okay.
that adds again, each one has a different flavor.
Uh-huh.
Coconut oil is one that's catching on, and people have cooking eggs in it and cooking potatoes in it. But olive oil is the main staple of Mediterranean diet.
And I've noticed too, a lot of people are drinking coconut milk.
Yes, yes. And you know, coconut milk, almond milk, hemp milk, those are all great alternative milks, because dairy is high in estrogen, lots and lots and lots of estrogen. And then it also has a lot of insulin-like growth factor, which grows tumors. And so, and of course, people have all kinds of allergies to milk. So dairy is kind of on the out, and so people want to still eat their cereals and still use dairy, but we use the alternative ones. Now, those are really good. You know, your rice and your soy probably aren't that great, but your coconut milk is going to be excellent. But it is all starch. And so although it does taste good, it's a good substitute for dairy, we don't want to consume a lot of it because it's just all going to convert to sugar too.
Okay, so, but it's okay, like you know, if you're eating it on your cereal or something like that.
Yeah, and it tastes good. Coconut milk is great. Some people like almond milk a little bit more. Again, they have different flavors.
Now, when you buy the almond or the coconut milks, do you have the option to buy them sweetened or unsweetened?
Yes. Yeah, and you always want to get unsweetened. People will naturally tend towards getting the vanilla or the sweetened kind or the chocolate, and it's high in sugar, so it tastes awesome, but your palate will get used to doing the unsweetened. Yeah. And so start with that, and you won't even have to desensitize yourself to all the sugar.
Yeah. Well, and sugar, that's kind of a real problem for a lot of people. It's sugars and things like that are making us fat, and we don't need to be fat.
Yeah.
We don't want to be fat.
That's right. Most Americans, back in 1900, the average American consumed about 10 pounds of sugar a year. Now we consume about 13 to 15 pounds a month.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, 13, 15, so 156 pounds a year.
And it's mainly because of the way foods are processed.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's if you addict rats to cocaine versus sugar, they're more addicted towards sugar. So companies that put more sugar in get more profit, we get more addicted, and we get fatter, they make more money. Their wallets get fatter, our bellies get fatter.
Just a vicious circle, isn't it?
That's right, that's right.
Well, people can learn more. Can they call your office and come in to see you?
Yes, yeah, we're located in Newton. Our number is 316-212-5429.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you.
And I can't wait to try the Tabouli.
It'll be good.
And we'll be back with some views from the Wichita Eagle opinion line, so stay with us.